Okay, so welcome to the NLI Meetup. We are a group of dedicated, educated, activated Intactivists. We work to enhance each of our own potential, utilizing the skills and talents of our volunteers. We give volunteers opportunities. We plan, we organize, and we carry out educational outreach for high-value targets. So one of the things that I've been wanting to do is, and we'll do this either at the end because some of you are new, but I want to make sure, because the people that join here and we are doing these videos, you guys are part of a video. These videos are going to be uploaded online so people can see what we're doing and the processes that we're creating. And so anyways, what I encourage is for everybody here to share last week's meetup. The reason why is because all the people that join here, they're not going to go watch the meetup, right? They were part of it. You guys are part of it. There's no reason for you to go watch the YouTube. So you're not, the people that are doing these videos are not sharing it. So I really want to make sure that we get people sharing all this stuff, if you agree with it, of course. But I want people to share this stuff because we really need to get the word out, because this is an extremely powerful system. It's guaranteed. It's guaranteed just simply because it's hard work and it's effort and it's work you put into it, and everybody that puts something into it will get a return on that at that time that you're putting into it. So you're going to literally have an influence on saving babies. And our goal is to have a massive influence on saving babies, not a small influence on saving babies. And the way to do that is to create systems where we can create higher outreach potential, which means we have to target certain groups, and we target high value groups, and then we create databases with large numbers of people within those groups. And then we contact those people through, written word first. So the first thing is the campaigns. We send a series of campaigns that are designed to get people to click them and read them and pay attention to them. They're designed to open up their mind a little bit. Now, that being said, if this is your first day, I'm going to warn you, the email that I'm going to read to you today has been set up by 3 other emails. And you can go read those in my blog. So if you go to my NLI, nextlevelintactivism.com, and you go on my blog there, you'll see the 3 previous campaign emails. And this is part of an FGM campaign. And this is the 4th email. It's probably the hardest one. It's going to be the longest one because it's, we're really kind of broaching the subject of connecting FGM to MGM. And like I said, we've already had some pretty important setup before you get to this stage. So the way I look at it is this. I'm open to everybody's opinion. Everybody that contributes to this, you're going to have a say in what we put out there. So anybody that has an opinion on anything, I want to hear it. You know, anything that makes us better. It's not about our egos. If I have a booger on my nose, I want somebody to tell me, right? So feel free to be critical. In fact, please do. The more critical you are, the better off we're going to be, right? Because it's not about our own egos. It's about being successful with saving babies. Okay, so announcements. We are in constant need of volunteers. Now that we have a massive database, okay, we have huge numbers of reporters, editors, publishers for media, and we're developing large database in doulas and midwives, in particular in New York and in California. And so we have a large list of people right now. We have plenty of work for us to do without even doing any more database gathering. So the database gathering, I consider phase 1 of any type of program. You have to have a list, right? It's like any sales. You know, if I'm trying to sell a product, I have to have a customer list of people that's interested in my product. So developing that customer list is essential for these outreach programs. So you develop the database, and then we're going to send these campaigns to them. I'm looking for anybody that wants to deal with imprinting. I think that one of the most important things that we can do for Intactivists is getting printed materials into their hands, because you could be walking down the street and a pregnant woman might pass you by, and you can just hand her a card, say, hey, it's baby information, you know, something like that. This is good information for babies. Doctors won't tell you this, or something like that. A lot of times I'll stamp a $5 bill, and I'll say, I'll give you a $5 bill if you visit this website. It's for babies. Okay, and you give them a $5 bill with a stamped, you know, you can get one of the stamped for Saving Our Sons. Saving Our Sons has some really good stamps that you can get for that, which are pretty awesome. So so we do need a print volunteer. So the print volunteer would basically be somebody that looks for really inexpensive printing. And then what they're going to do is they're going to organize a list of Intactivists who can use these printing materials. And we'll keep in contact with those people and make sure that they're constantly have access to these printed materials so that they're always able to use those printed materials. I did videos where I would leave these printed materials in various places like bookstores, and you can put them in like Whole Foods may have a tack board or something like that. You can put those out there. Some yoga places will have a tack board, or boutiques a lot of times, or places that when you go in there and they'll see like a list of like a bunch of different advertisements for events that are happening around the town, those types of boutique stores. Okay, so I watched a video. I think it was one of the, I'm just going to show it to you guys. I want you to be aware of it. I just think it's such a good video that to me it was worth an announcement to talk about. And it's Brendon Marotta's show, and he did a video about, let me just pull it up for you. You can see it, and then hopefully you can go check it out. But let me just show it to you. So I'm going to include this in the, I'm going to send you a link to this, so you'll have this link in the text notes in a second. Anyways, this is Carter Steinhoff and his mother discuss circumcision, and it's an emotional conversation in the Brendon Marotta show. This video is fantastic because, I mean, just look at, you can see Carter's mother right there, and there's so much pain in her face. Like, watching her go through this it's difficult for myself just to see it, you know what I mean? Like, and because you can know that his mother is devastated by this. Like she really feels the hurt of him explaining. She's on a video spread, send out to how many people, right? Thousands. She's got 1,000 views right now, and she's accepting the facts, and she's brave enough to stand there and take this. And to me, that's essential for healing for the victims of this. So I think this is a very powerful video. Anyways, let me share that with you guys. I have to stop screen sharing for a second. Like the chat. So it's going to be in the chat box. So highly recommend you go watch that video. If you're watching this on YouTube, there'll be a link in the description below. Okay. So go check out that video and share it. It's a very valuable video. And yeah, you should be, we should be, oops, did I share the screen? Okay, you guys see my screen? Okay, good. Okay, we should be, in any type of YouTube star, people like this, for some reason, we're really good on Facebook, but not so good on YouTube. We need a bigger presence on YouTube. So any people that are, doing these, I have a channel. Brendon Marotta has a channel. Let's see, who else has got Bonobo 3D. That's James Lohan, I think. Go support these channels online and on YouTube. Very, very valuable resources. That video that I just mentioned, I would use that for potential mothers who you're trying to say, look, this could be something that you regret later on. Your child can come back to you and be very upset about this justifiably. And here's an example of that. And I don't want you to have to go through this later in your life, So it's just kind of like something that you could use to get some mother to watch that. Okay. So what we're going to do right now, we're going to move on to today's goals. The things that I want to do today is we're going to talk about the FGM campaign email reading for. I do apologize to you guys because I was trying to get this out before today. But this is probably the most important email we're going to write in this series, and I wanted to really focus on it. And you'll when I read it, you'll see there's little things I need to fix. There's again, I wrote this quite emotionally when I wrote this. I was emotional when I wrote this, so I'm open to anybody's opinions. Like, please let me know if you have. If it's too much, is it too little? Is it anyways, okay. We're going to also talk about volunteer options. So, what are the options of volunteering? And what really is NLI? Are you joining a group? Is this like, are you now some part of something or something like that? And I want to talk about like what it is. These are basically ideas for Intactivism, and they're not really necessarily my own ideas. A lot of these ideas are we're going to talk about the volunteers options, and then we're going to talk about the goal of the Tele-Intactivism first campaign phone call. So the last thing we're going to talk about is the goals of the Tele-Intactivism first campaign phone call. which I think is very important to understand, like how the goals of each phone call is, you know, it's going to set the stage for broaching these subjects with people and getting more response for them. Okay, and it's going to actually set kind of like it's the initial kind of like the first contact, you know, like your first job interview kind of thing. Anyways, let's go into the campaign email. I'm going to read this to you again. It's not completely done, but I want you to hear what we're sending out. I think this is a very powerful one. It's quite long, so I'm going to read through this for you guys. So again, this is the fourth email in the campaign, and this email has been set up by the previous three. All the emails that we're going to send out are going to be on the blog first before I send them out. In fact, we haven't sent out any campaigns yet. I wanted to have at least 4 or 5 under my wing before we actually started the campaign, because I don't want to be trying to catch up or anything like that, kind of be stuck behind it like this, you know, like doing this one. Anyways, let me get started. While mounds of resources of money have been thrown at ending female genital mutilation, or FGCM, cutting and mutilation, and some drop in the most severe forms of FGC have been noted, by and large, FGC is on the increase, not on the decrease, despite massive efforts worldwide. In 1990, it was estimated that 168,000 women were cut or in danger of being cut by the CDC in the United States. What's important to understand is that some of these women are being cut, and they're not being prosecuted, okay? Today, the CDC estimates that we have 3 times that amount, with now at least 513,000 little girls threatened by FGC living in America today. In the Western world, as FGC cultures migrate to Western societies, FGC will only continue to increase unless we create effective educational outreach programs. We pass powerful punitive laws that are pursued to the full extent, and we come clean about our own form of genital mutilation, the Western form of child genital cutting, the mutilation of male babies, MGC. Okay, I must restate that last part of the thesis. It's hard for our culture. It's the part that our culture needs to hear. Western culture cannot end CGC of another culture while denying the facts of our own form of CGC. African women are not dumb. They know if we do our own version of genital mutilation, we can hardly tell Africans to end their cherished forms of CGC while we continue ours. Hypocrisy does not work, and Africans know this. FGC supporters have already pointed this out and is starting to use our medical excuses to justify FGC. The recent case of Dr. Nagarwala, who despite abundant evidence was acquitted of mutilating hundreds of girls, is the most glaring example of female genital cutters getting off because of the hypocrisy of Western utilization. Even though the media won't tell you this, and in fact hasn't told us much about this at all, feminist groups are strangely quiet. So of course, no one discussed the judge had a personal bias being part of the CGC culture and himself a victim. Okay. In case you didn't know, the judges dismissed the last remaining charge against the doctor, serious charge, accused of genital mutilation. So Dr. Nagarwala still has a medical license to practice medicine in the United States. That means she can still be working with little children in the United States. She didn't even lose her license. So she got away scot-free with mutilating hundreds of girls, and the reason why is because of our own hypocrisy. Okay, let me get back to this. Without understanding the failure of past efforts to end FGC, the inability of our legal system to prosecute FGC effectively, and how this is influenced by our own form of child genital cutting, we will likely just repeat the same mistakes, with the end result being FGC massively increasing in the Western world. Hypocrisy doesn't work, America. This is James Ketter. You see the red, you see these are red, just quotes and stuff that I've included by other people just to kind of give support to this issue, okay? By not dealing with genital mutilation as a violation to humans, regardless of gender, it is left open the possibility that under the Equal Protection Clause, the laws singling out female victims would be struck down. And that is exactly what happened. James Ketter. So what we did is we took away the possibility of the state itself to prosecute double jeopardy on this issue when the state itself was the legal responsibility for prosecuting this type of it's an assault and battery. Anyways, American myths of female genital cutting. Okay, most Americans believe myths were told up rather than the truth of female genital cutting. We believe all female genital cutting is the worst form of female genital cutting, the combination of FGC types 1 to 3. Now that was in one of our emails, I think the last email. And so if you go back, you'll actually have an email specifically about the different types of FGC. We never acknowledge there are forms of FGC that are less harmful and damaging than our own form of child genital cutting, we believe that FGC is always done by a lay person not trained in medicine with a rusty blade in a dirt alley with the goal of destroying and dominating a little girl's sexuality. But what if we were talking about a country like Malaysia, where a female child is cut in a modern hospital by a trained surgeon with antiseptic procedures, and just the lesser forms of cutting such as CGC types 1 to 2A are performed? Does this make it better? Does this legitimize FGC? Okay, there's a video by Tucker, and there's an advocate of FGM, and the horrors are exaggerated. So now they're in our media. These pro FGM supporters or FGC supporters are in our media, exposing the fact that, hey, it's not as bad as what you're doing. Okay, some of these things that you consider horrible violations of human rights are not even as bad as what you're doing. Okay, so the myths we tell ourselves are nothing more than confirmational biases that serve to lessen the impact of recognizing the damage of our own CGC, while pointing fingers at other cultures for their form of CGC that we disagree with. It's always easier to point the finger than to take our own medicine. We like to believe our form of CGC is far less harmful. We tell fantastical self-lies, like children slept through it. It's just a flap of skin that has no real value, nor any function, as if nature made another mistake. We tell ourselves that no real harm happens, since an infant will never remember it, and he's better off that way. Mothers imagine his future partners will thank her, and he will have far less shower time and won't miss this non-essential leftover flap of evolutionary mistake that so routinely turns disease any chance it gets. The truth hurts. To be honest with ourselves about what our parents and medical doctors have done to us and what we have done to our children hurts. All a child knows being cut, regardless of male or female, is tremendous pain and little torture as their most sensitive personal area we tell them no one should touch are violated on a massive and disgusting scale. All genitally mutilated children are psychologically shattered by this horrible, cowardly, disgusting, devastating assault on their genitals. Okay, we learn more about the psychological harm. That was email 2, is the psychological damage. All genitally mutilated children are psychologically shattered by this horrific, cowardly, disgusting, devastating assault on their genitals, no matter what they believe in when they grow up or how influential their culture is at convincing them this was good for them. The damage and harm influences entire societies. Is this psychological damage the reason cutting cultures are far more violent than in America? Every day, 3,000 babies are sexually assaulted, tortured, and crippled for life. What amounts to trivial, ridiculous, made-up benefits, and when properly researched, amount to nothing but weak excuses to shield the industry from massive liability while keeping the gravy train going. No serious medical professional or scientist could scientifically justify CGC based off of some far-fetched puny medical benefits that amount to cutting off a foot to prevent a stub toe. Children are not at risk for HIV or STIs. Other excuses such as UTIs, penile cancer, HPV, balanitis, and phimosis or paraphimosis are rare and easily treated with far less harmful treatments that do not include amputation of the primary sensory and mechanical functioning tissue of a child's genitals. In future emails, we will discuss the lucrative profits of medical cannibalism on the genitals of small children in America's most common and most shameful surgery. How is there even such a thing as an optional surgery on the genitals of helpless, non-consenting children? Repeat that question. In the world I want to live in, that question alone is enough to turn any good adult into a raving protector of children. Why are we cutting off part of our children's sex organs in America? To appease the parental insecurities with the natural body we were born with due to cultural bias? To help brainwash uneducated, negligent at best quacks to make their Tesla payments? For rich, old wrinkled women fate to have less wrinkles? Excuse me. And there's an article on Oprah. I have in my name and shame, there's an article on Oprah on the website. So I'm going to include the link to that. Okay, this is a little interesting insert. Pedophile and rapist lawyer Alan Dershowitz, friend and lawyer of convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein, who was responsible for Epstein's first kangaroo court, which basically let him off with a slap on the wrist and allowed him 10 more years of raping and abusing girls, joins genital mutilation case defense team. So if you don't know that Alan Dershowitz was part of that, now you do. Whether this happens to boys or girls, this is wrong, America. It is shameful, disgusting, and the truth of this issue is coming to a head, whether we want to recognize reality or not. No matter how many adults believe our cultural myths about this issue, the truth is the truth, and harm is undeniable. This is literally common sense and clear that anyone who denies harm to a child places their own egos and ridiculous self-lies before the rights, body, and protection of children. Cultural norms harm children, not legit medicine. There is no ethical, evidence-based medicine that cuts off the genitals of small, healthy children. The notion is fantastically erroneous to the point of sick psychosis, and we will demolish the flimsy medical excuse in future emails, as well as share how essential to function the foreskin really is. There's a really good quote from V. Savage, who's a fantastic intactivist. V says, no one would argue that boys and girls don't feel pain the same ways. No one would agree that if you punch a boy in the face, he won't feel it or mind. Or if you punch a girl, she'll be in pain, bruised, but you punch a girl, she'll be in pain, bruised, and bloody. No one would agree that you could cut off a boy's ear with no consequences, but a girl would have major irreparable damage to her hearing. How can we believe that any part of the human body is that vastly different that cutting it doesn't have any of the same effects in boys as it does in girls? How are people so ignorant that common sense doesn't click and say that makes no sense, that they are both human flesh being cut from a non-consenting child's most sensitive parts? Powerful statement. The truth about FGC is that there are many forms with wildly different degrees of harm, from the ritual nick to draw blood up to a combination of clitorectomy, hoodectomy, with labia majora, and minorectomy followed by infibulation, a combination of FGC types 1 through 3, or by fibulation or sewing shut of the two mutilated sides. This is a horrific act no child should experience, although still way too high and absolutely barbaric. Thankfully, the worst kind of FGC constitute only 10 to 15% of FGC cases worldwide. What this means is that 80%, 85% of what we call FGC is equivalent to or less harmful and less evasive than what we do to our own children. Now, this is not an us versus them type of email. It's not a throw the underside under the bus so we can get some paltry benefit ourselves, as is the dominant messages of FGC activists. Good people do not choose which child to protect based off of what they have in their pants. The truth is, all children deserve protection from harmful cultural practices. All children deserve to grow up to full adulthood with all the body parts, their DNA created for them. And I shouldn't have to tell this to any adults. I shouldn't have to tell this to any adult this ever, but I do. Real activists protect all children who are subject to CGC, not just the ones that share their sex organs. Most FGC activists actually support MGC. I'm going to change that to a C. This is Twilight Zone psychotic. How can you recognize the pain and torture in one child and deny the same in another child? Okay, this is Larkin Rose. Just about the most glaring example of cultural bias I can think of is the fact that most Americans view genital mutilation of young girls' practices in other cultures as heinously evil and barbaric, which it is, but view male circumcision as just fine. The only reason they think that is because one type of genital mutilation, but not the other, is still common and familiar in this country. It's tradition that makes it okay. Well, guess what? That is the same reason that people in those other countries engage in their barbaric shit. Either way, it constitutes the physical torture of a young child. If you're trying to fabricate a fundamental difference, it's because you don't want to question the crap in your own culture. I'm sorry, I'm reading ahead of myself. You want to question the crap your own culture preaches and does. You just want to focus on how bad other cultures are, Larkin Rose. Okay, of course, not all FGC activists are like this. Sonia, Myra, and Hirsi Ali are both powerful and influential FGC activists, both victims themselves of FGC, and recognize the harm and damage of MGC and routinely support keeping all children intact and whole. Sadly, they are exception, not the rule. And there's two videos, both by Hirsi Ali, who is a powerful FGC activist and just a wonderful person. She's against the harm of women done in certain cultures. And Soraya Myre, who I met at the 15th annual symposium of child's rights in San Francisco. She's a amazing person. Of course, there's no acceptable degree of child genital cutting of any child. No matter the degree of cutting, the moment a child's genital is pierced with a knife, a grave violation of that child's body and human rights have been committed. It matters not the cultural context or social pressures, no matter what excuses a person could imagine, no matter how brainwashed, no matter what imaginary friend told whomever, whatever. This should never happen to a child, ever. This is dumb and barbaric. Humanity should be ashamed for letting this continue into 2021. We have AI looming on the horizon. We have developed tremendous technology, yet our science and doctors are completely clueless to the basic anatomy and function of essential to life body parts, and our doctors are unable to give proper informed consent on body parts they are uneducated on, and most are missing. So what if there was some grasping benefit to justify FGC? Who cares if there's some minuscule, trivial medical benefit wrapped up in jargon? No chintzy, mostly imagined benefits can justify cutting off any parts off any child. Yet the main claim to differentiate FGC from MGC is that FGC has no medical benefits, implying that MGC is somehow legit when it absolutely is not. It's just another lie we tell ourselves, and another reason we are impotent to stop FGC, even in our own culture, in our own country. Hypocrisy doesn't work in America. This is absolutely sick. Many victims of CGC, such as myself, cannot even fathom how such sickness is perpetuated, and how educated grown-ups, term used loosely, have not forcibly revolted against the idea of mutilating the genitals of children. This is an actual reason to be upset in America. We are blindly sexually assaulting our children for the most ridiculous medical lies. My body was damaged by my own parents, my medical doctors that I should be able to trust. We should have known this was wrong. I would have never chosen this for myself, ever. Okay, interesting how men aren't supposed to have any psychological complications pertaining to male genital mutilation whatsoever. However, if we so much as pinprick a little girl, it can be expected that she'll have ongoing psychological problems from the harm of FGM that FGM caused her. Females are likely to have psychological issues about FGM. Males aren't even allowed to have any psychological issues about MGM. Often, indeed, they'll often be laughed at. And this is Zud Ditaka, a YouTube comment. Okay, a 5-year-old recognizes this as evil. Show a circumcision to a 5-year-old if you want to know what your authentic reaction should be without years of cultural brainwashing. It's time we stop pretending that we are better simply because we don't cut females. We cut children. We are a child genital mutilation society, whether we want to admit it or not. We are the biggest hypocrites of humanity. Land of the free, home of the brave, yet another lie. We cut the genitals of helpless screaming children for dubious medical benefits that even a cursory review of the supporting literature would expose as a cruel joke. Any human that claims medical benefits of knife-raiding children has not done any sort of legit. I think some of this is repeating, so I'm going to have to go back through this and remove what's repeating, because I wrote this at different times. But anyways, any human that claims medical benefits of knife-raiding children has not done any support or reasonable or legitimate research whatsoever, yet they always have an opinion. Somehow, about this one issue, everyone is an expert. And not even the doctors know doing the mutilation know the 101 level anatomy they are amputating off children. In future emails, we will discuss in detail the final frontier in human anatomy, the male genitals, and explode this juicy bit of taboo information. What you will find is that the male prepuce is 1/3 to 1/2 the total surface area, containing 75% of the nerve endings, including both male G-spots. There's a link to that. Even with this, without this basic knowledge, there's really no excuse. We learned enough science to debunk the notion of this being medicine in the 5th grade. Natural selection doesn't create tissue with no function, no value, and 5,488 mammal species over 150 million years of evolution that is inherently diseased. This would defy fundamental biology we are teaching 5th graders. Okay, this is Jonas Bush. As long as we are not able or willing to protect boys from child genital cutting, girls will never be safe as we leave the ethical backdoor wide open for girl cutters. How are tens of thousands of doctors still doing this without question? Humanity is far from humane, and its doctors are worse than the fondling. Some of this stuff I might take out, the fondling pedophiles. I mean, but it is. I think it's an important point, because we're literally putting people in jail for like massaging kids' genitals for their own personal benefit, and now we're literally cutting them. So it's kind of a, again, this is open for anybody that has any reservations about anything. Please let me know. We can change this stuff. Okay. I just wrote this, and some of it I was in an emotional state when I wrote it. Okay, pedophiles who touch are far less harmful than doctors who cut. I think that's an important point. So, but I'm willing to maybe take that out. Okay. Cultural brainwash, the most basic ethics and common sense, smooth out of someone's mind. We are not rational creatures with compassion and empathy who care about our own lives. Who care about our own offspring, who would sacrifice to make our children's lives better. We care far more about our egos and protecting our own self-lives, to the point we will strip little children naked, strap down their arms and legs, spread eagle on a board, and mercilessly hack away at the most nerve-dense part of their anatomy while they scream in pain, to deny our own damaged sex lives and to validate the lie we tell ourselves about our own sexual prowess. All for our own egos, we throw children under the knife of the mutilators. The lies continue. We live in a wonderful, educated, moral, and just society that raises its children in safe, wonderful, loving homes, don't we? No. We throw stones at glass houses while living in our own glass house. We are not good people. We don't put our children first. We put them in front of our own, we put them in front of our own needs. We don't put them in front of our own needs. We want bigger houses, nicer cars, more expensive shoes, all for the opinions of somebody we bypass on the street. America is a mirage, a facade, a fraud, but we look good, and appearance is everything, even if we do horrible, psychotic things to our children. After all, we don't want our children with nasty, ewy body parts. What would the Joneses think? He must lack like daddy. He must lack like daddy. What if he's made fun of in the shower? Let's cut him to prevent a future bully. Might as well be his first bully. Toughen up, little sucker. Should have been born male in the land of the free. Mommy won't suck no nasty smegma-filled whole penis. Our family can't handle the shame. Cut that shit off. America is a fraud. Its own boisterous claims massively violating against our own most vulnerable. We do not even have a voice to fight and no legal protections whatsoever. We sexually assault children before they can form conscious memories. Imagine forcing the same surgery on a non-consenting adult. What exactly reduces the ethical violation when done on a helpless child? It's worse when it's done to children. It would be less ethical and perverse for doctors to kidnap adults and mutilate them without anesthesia. Children reserve special protection over and above adults, not less. Okay, this is a fantastic article by Brian Earp. FGM laws are being sacrificed to protect male circumcision warrants Yale scholar Brian Earp. Okay, there's a link there, very good link. You can and should judge a society based on how it treats its children. That doesn't make one a racist or a bigot. That makes one authentic and self-aware. Judging one by their actions is the opposite of bigotry. I'm Jewish, by the way. If undeserved thoughts of anti-Semitic fluttered through your thoughts in a way to discredit these obvious facts. This has nothing to do with genetics and everything to do with culture. Our so-called medical professionals deny the 101 level anatomy, structure, and function of an essential body part as if learning it causes brain cancer. It's not one of the most interesting body parts that we have. Remember getting a microscope in your science kit when you were 8? Yeah, somehow only one study in human history has used this valuable piece of scientific research equipment that is giving us so much information of other small things for understanding the better part of our missing genital tissue. What they found was devastating to cut man and experience confirming to intact whole men as well as being quite expected. I mean, would it be a surprise if half our genitals was numb with no contribution to pleasure generated by the organ? This is akin to claiming cutting off half one's tongue has no influence on your lunch. This is an utterly ridiculous claim. This utterly ridiculous claim is made by certain pro-mutilators in the scientific community with questionable motives. American doctors completely ignore screams and obvious signs of extreme pain and trauma, even though the children are screaming, not from having their genitals flayed by Edward Scissorhands, but because they are strapped to a board, or because the knife is cold. Seriously, these are common excuses of these lobotomized quacks. Again, if lobotomized quacks is too forceful, I'm willing to take that out, but I kind of like it. It's just a thought. So, but really this needs to be maybe a little bit more professional. So give me your personal opinion on your opinions on this when I'm done with it. Give me a second. Okay, what amounts to overt scientific evidence of extreme psychological damage, trauma, and even shock right in front of their eyes, somehow either senses send false signals or they somehow have lost all semblance of decency. I can't fathom a decent person ever knife raping a child for a financial profit while denying basic anatomy and function of the human body. How do you have tens of thousands of educated medical professionals violate their oath with all the medical ethics they learned in school to do an optional surgery on children's genitals, on body parts they are completely oblivious to anatomy, form, and function for over 100 years? This is Trenton Tan. How do we say no to both FGM? How about we say no to both FGM and MGM? Protecting both genders is called human rights. Protecting one while ignoring the other is called sexism. I can't even imagine this possibility ever, even if we lived in an external multiverse. I can't imagine going through medical school to learn to help children brainlessly and psychotically torture and mutilate the genitals of helpless children in violation of every goal I could have had besides self-gain and ego protection. What is obvious, the antithesis of rational evidence-based medicine. Okay, let me go down a little bit. The emperor has no clothes. So some of this is repeating, and I'm realizing that now because I've wrote this at different times. I'm kind of get to the point where I'm going to finish this. What I'm going to end up finishing this with is basically describing how to be successful with ending FGM. And there's a fantastic website, 28 Too Many. It's an FGM organization, and what they're doing, which is also valuable for us because their research, I think, is something that we could use ourselves. Of determining that some of the biggest issues of FGM campaigns in the past was they denied the cultural context, right? We use our own bold biases of FGC, and that tainted how we approach FGC in those cultures. So what we would do is they would send out activists who are more like try to go and shout down the FGC and the cutters and stuff instead of approaching it from a cultural perspective, instead of realizing who's actually the cultural influencers, right? We've been told that it's males dominating females, and that's the major difference, right? That's one of the major reasons why they're so bad and we're not so bad, right? Which is ridiculous. It's kind of, anyways. So they use it to justify it. But this organization basically saying that we need to approach the people that are doing it, and who's doing it? The grandmothers, the elders, the older women of the tribe, of course, right? They're the ones that are most entrenched in the society. They're the ones that are the most brainwashed. They lived in it the longest, so it makes complete sense that they're going to be the ones that are going to perpetuate it the most. But the outreach programs for FGC in Africa ignored this for a long time. And so what they're doing now is they're creating more they call it culturally appropriate type of outreach, and they're going to the grandmothers and they're talking to the grandmothers. I think this is valuable for us because it's different. We have a different issue because we're a more advanced society and we're not so close-knit tribal, right? But we have so much, we're much more complex with the social, the social reach and influence is much less. Our nuclear families are smaller than tribal groups that live in close contact with each other. So we're in a different type of environment where I think that the United States has a social respect for it's enshrined in our Constitution that we have the freedom to speak, and that we have the right to petition our government for the redress of grievances. So I think we have a little bit more ability to be more forceful and more outspoken about how we feel about this, as long as it doesn't get to the stage where it's pushing people away or preventing people from hearing our message. Anyways, I thought that was very fascinating. I'm going to include that in the link in the description below. And this, again, will be online. And if you have any contributions, additions, I really, really appreciate that. The way that that I get better at this stuff is with your help. So again, this isn't about my ego or I wrote this cool article and I'm going to send it out and people are going to read it and they're going to think I'm so cool. It's about, is this making a difference? Is this having an influence? We talked many times on this meetup about how I feel of the fact that I think that emotional responses and forceful responses are valuable components of this, and that we should, let the men who are victims of this have a bigger voice in this, because, silencing men for this issue is creating additional trauma. It's additional stress. It's additional, if I can't even have my freedom of speech when I'm damaged and harmed by society, then that's, it's hard to heal when in that situation. You know what I mean? It's harder to come to terms with it and accept it. But anyways, any initial reactions to this? Do you think it's too hard, too forceful? Say your mind, speak your piece. What do you think, Sarah? Any thoughts on this?
First of all, who are you sending this email to?
This is going to go to large numbers of media, doulas and midwives. That's who we got right now. Parenting groups. There's FGC activists that we're sending this to. There's organizations like UNICEF and different places like that. We're going to send it to. I got some universities and also the AAP. Large numbers of AAP are going to get this as well. So that's where it's going. So.
Well, okay, so we all get super excited, you know, like, okay, we're gonna tell them everything, you know, we know all this, we want them to know all of this, of course, and so then it gets confusing to know like the difference between like our like educated minds about it and then like people who are completely uneducated about it. So we have to be careful with what we say, which comes up all the time, you know, like when we're saying things, you know, like you just said, like the pedophilia thing, like of course to us it's pretty obvious pedophilia, but to them it might be like something that would immediately make them.
Yeah, that I agree. I think I should pull that out. I'm going to do
so
that.
I see both sides, you know, of course. So I don't know. That's definitely one that I would think we should watch out for, because I like to go that route too, because that's what it is.
And the reason, I'm sorry, I'm just going to interrupt you for a second. The reason why there's three other emails that lead up to this, right? So there's a softening. There's not such a hard stance in those three other emails. This is like the coup de grace. This is like, here, I've set it up. Now I'm going to take it down. So that's kind of like what this email is, which is why this is not the first email that's going to go out. And it might be a little bit off-putting to somebody who thinks this is the first email. That's one of the reasons I mentioned that this is the reason why we chose the female FGC as a starting point is because our society understands it. There's a part of their mind that's already wrapped itself around this. There's brain structures in their minds that understand it, right? And we're trying to get them to understand this. So anyways, that's why we started with FGC. The first one was how Dr. Nagarwala got off the case, and she's basically running free right now. The second one, I think, was about the psychological damage. The third one was about the different types. This one is about the cultural differences between FGC and MGC. So anyways, that's kind of what this is about. But again, you know, like there's parts of this. I had a conversation with some people yesterday. Me and Michelle were talking about this, and also Justin was on the line with me. And a lot of the things I kind of asked them, you think this is too much? You think this is too much? Some of the things that I think were, you know, might be questionable. They're like, you know, we need to keep that in there because we need to be a little bit more forceful about this. But like, again, this is about being successful and about being effective and efficient, not about our own egos. So any other thoughts about that, Sarah?
Actually, and I don't know, since we skipped through a lot of it, I think that something that we could add in there, if it's not already, is something I've been thinking about. You know, they talk female genital mutilation causes a lifetime of pain and a lifetime of psychological hurt and physical hurt and blah blah blah. So if we ask them, well, how do you know? How do you know? And I mean, I'm sure their answer is going to be very similar to any male, any man. So for
pretty obvious, right?
Somebody, you know, so yeah. So when they're saying like, it's not the same for a male, how could it be the same for a male? You say, well, how do you know? How do you know that you're living a lifetime of pain? How do you know that you believe this female next to you who says that she's enduring a lifetime of psychological trauma because of this? How do you know? Because the answer is the same. You know, we can get, you know, a survivor saying her, you know, answer to that, a male survivor who gives his answer to that, and you can compare them, and they're going to be pretty much the exact same. So I think comparing, or I don't really know, lack of better words, I guess, comparing the answer to how do you know that you're living a lifetime of pain? How do you know that you are traumatized from this? Because the answer is the same.
That is a really good, I really want to put that in there. That's a really good thing. Do you guys want me to continue? Would you rather just read the rest and kind of just go as or do you want to just me to go back and redo this? I mean, I don't, this is the one I don't want to rush through. And this is kind of like the linchpin, I think, of what we're doing. So
is it organized I mean, I think it should be organized in such a way where you talk about like, I don't even know the different categories that you could have, but like the order that you talk about it, Or
Here's
the
kind of
order that
like,
you
here's kind of
use
the,
anyway.
here's the, wait, that's the wrong one. Let me see. Outreach campaign ideas. Okay, so here's the, again, this is a, I think it's important to understand this is a work in progress, right? This is like, you're getting like, this is not the final project I give to my teacher, right? You're getting like the, this is like just a really rough draft version.
Rough draft.
Right,
It's a rough draft, yeah. So this is, let me just do this. I can just bring these down a little bit. I'll show you the organization. And I need to, because I just started going in here and writing. Okay, here we go. This is the organization. Okay, so if you don't understand it, how we are effective at ending FGM, American beliefs of FGM, education outreach on the right. So this is where I need to kind of like fix the backbone here and then go back through there.
Okay. So these are your categories that you went over in that email.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
You see, it's education. I mean, again, I need to really go back through this, but these are just ideas and things that we can put in there. We got quotes, we got connecting to MGM, social norms that perpetuate FGM, culturally sensitive approaches to ending FGM, social change. This is where I was going to get into. The ones at the end are, I think we've done enough. I think there's a little bit of redundancy, so I'm going to get rid of the redundancy so I'm not really saying the same things over and over again. And then what I'll do is I'll get on here and I'll flesh out the culturally sensitive approaches to ending FGM, which is based off of participatory dialogue and educational approaches, which is something that we're literally saying, hey, we need to do these educational campaigns. Well, guess what? You're actually part of our educational campaign for our program. We're doing what we need to be doing for FGM to you. You know what I'm saying? We're educating you. So anyways, and social change. Yeah, so if you guys want to read, this thing is extremely valuable. Let me pull the references. I'll show you real quick. See if I can't pull it up. This is 28 Too Many, Social Norms and FGM, Key Findings, Social Expectations, Reference Groups, Social Influence, Social Benefits. This is really a smart way of approaching FGM where we, instead of, just approaching you're actually approaching the person that's doing it. So you're really going after the grandmothers and the systems that are in place. So we can use these to kind of tailor our own approach to MGM. Very valuable stuff in here. Let me just send this to you guys so that you guys can follow this. Let's see if I
that email, Daniel, I feel like, if you don't mind, to be completely honest with you, I'm just really good at writing and editing and grammar and things. I would really like to take your email and like you could do nothing with it, but I really want to take it and just like rewrite it how I like with my grammar. I like just because.
Let's do that.
I kind of want to pass it around. Like I literally want it to be like a hot potato. Everybody can like put their input in and you can just take it, do nothing with it, take whatever you want out of it. But I feel like, because like we all feel the same as you do so like the email, I feel like is relevant to all of us. It could be coming.
Of course.
So
yeah.
Like it's a super, super good starting point. Like it lists everything that we would all want to say. So I feel like, to make sure that it's relevant, because we're all different people. So if we're all like, this is eye-catching to me, this is eye-catching to me, this is eye-catching to me too.
Yeah.
That would be a good start as far as making sure we have it exactly how we need it to be,
Thank you. And that's the coalition I'm trying to create is I know that I'm not the end all be all, and I need some support and help, you know what I mean? So I wanted to create a system that anybody can jump into, and that's what we're going to talk about next, that anybody can just jump into and do their own thing. And like we're doing these phone calls, I'm actually doing work while we're on the phone calls, like, adjusting things, making things. So we get work done while we're doing these phone calls. And then, we're helping each other, like Paul, Paul's not here today, but Paul came along and he did he talked about how they ask questions, and we're writing a sales script. Let me show you guys the sales script. Where we're at right now in the sales script and how it's just, I'm just so impressed with what Paul gave us. Paul was he's a sales, he's been in sales for like 30 years. So he's a sales manager and he runs sales programs. So let me pull up the Tele-Intactivism script ideas. So this looks quite a bit complex. It is. Okay, so this is the questions, like open-ended questions, tell your story. This is things to say, that you can, so you don't run out of things to say, handling objections, goals of the outreach, flattery, motivation, dualism, midwives, how to approach different people, negotiation, lots of different stuff in here. How basically the idea is how to question people to get them to, because really you're guiding people's thought processes with this is the way I look at it. And that's how you, in sales, you take somebody down a progression, to the end result where they're being, at the end result, they're like, I want this, I need this in my life, I see the value of this. That's what sales basically is. And so what we're trying to do is do the same thing. And by getting people's values and positions and opinions, you're better able to direct them as opposed to, try to tell them who to be, and people are more receptive when they're approached from questioning and stuff like that. They're contributing to the participation. We're going to have a very, before we do our first campaign, Tele-Intactivism campaign, just to reiterate the basics. First phase, database gathering. Second phase, written word. Third phase, phone calls, Tele-Intactivism, right? So the Tele-Intactivism, before we do those phone calls, all the people that I have doing those phone calls, we're gonna make sure that you know all the fundamental basics that you need to know as far as anatomy, history, medical excuses, those types of things. So you have some solid facts in your brain that you can just pop out and sound like a professional. So you need to be able to answer any questions that they ask. Again, I don't want to put too much pressure on people. You're just doing the phone call is going to make a difference in the world. So don't worry if it's not perfect. Okay, that's a big important thing, is not to realize that you're going to get better every time you do another phone call. So the more you do, the more, even when you screw up, you get better the next time, right? So the more you screw up, the better you get. So if you screw up a lot, you're going to be really good at this, right? So don't worry about being perfect, but we do want to make sure you have a really strong knowledge that when somebody asks you a question, you can just respond to it. Secondly, the goals that we're going to have in each phone call is going to help us to develop a relationship with this person, as opposed to being opposing to them. So real quick, did you guys want me to finish that email or move on from that and continue on? I don't want to just bore you guys reading that email, the first email.
Send it to us. I think you should send it to us. I just told Michelle that I'm going to read it over and send it back by Friday with what I have, and then I feel like we should go over it again once somebody does something with it again. That way we'll go over it again the same way we did tonight.
And nobody edited the first 3 emails. So I have not had anybody edit the first 3 emails. You can go back through those. I mean, you could literally do the whole thing. I would do this one first because this is the one we need to get. But actually read through those too, though, because I'm gonna read them all. Read through them so you understand them, and you can kind of see the progression. And we can change. We can go back to those emails in the past and adjust those and make those better before we send those out, right? So everything is open for improvement. Okay, so anyways, this Tele-Intactivism phone script ideas, we're gonna. There's one of the videos that we did, one of the meetings we did. Paul was on, and he did a presentation for us. And I think it's on the YouTube channel. If you go to the YouTube channel, you'll be able to see that and watch that. It's so valuable for what we're doing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it part of every Intactivist education system. We're also creating education systems for Intactivists as we're creating these programs. The main thing is getting these campaigns done and written out, because we have these databases that are sitting there waiting for us to do this. They're just waiting, and they've been there, and it's like, we've got to put these into use. Okay, so let's go over the script goals. Okay, so this is important because the goal of the first Tele-Intactivism phone call is very, very important that we approach this the correct way. So the main goal of the phone call is really to establish contact and to develop at least a baseline of where this person is at. Okay, so you're establishing contact. What you want to have is a good first impression. You've heard that a million times. Treat this like you're going to a job interview. Don't approach this as I'm going to attack this person. Okay, approach this as I'm going to help this person along a journey, and then I got to give them little steps along the way that help them to approach this, or to understand this in a way that they should. Okay, so we want to establish a positive connection. We want to develop rapport. Okay. First response, you want to listen intently. Okay. Listening is one of the hardest skills when it comes to this, and it's one of the most important skills. Try not to judge them, even if they're connected to a false belief. Okay. Remember, this is your first contact. We need to give them time to absorb this information. Listen to the words used. Okay? Pay attention to the words they use, because you're going to use them. You're going to feed back their words to them. When you feed back the same words a person uses, they know that you're listening, and it connects with them on a deeper level than if you use different words. So why as well use the same? Okay, so people are different. They respond differently. They're going to answer the questions differently. So some of the things to look for are they move towards person, or they move away from person? Okay, some people move towards a goal. Okay, they're motivated by reaching the end, reaching the goal. Okay, some people are motivated by moving away from pain. Okay, maybe they're in pain, they have to move forward in order to get out of pain. So people are motivated by different ways. So listen to their words. Are they more motivated by pain, or are they more motivated by progress? One of the interesting things is that I've heard this recently. I'm not sure. I think it was from Brendon Marotta, that women are more, when you're approaching this subject with women, is you want it to be more emotional. You want to connect with them emotionally. Whereas with men, you want to create a sense of opportunity to do something. You want to create a sense of, here's a problem and here's an option for you to do something about it. You want to give them options, right? So approach the men and women differently. They depend on, everybody's different, so you have to pay attention to the person. Listen to sensory words. You can listen to auditory words. I hear this, it sounds like this, okay? Kinesthetic words, I feel this, it felt like this. Visual words is I see, this is how I perceive things, it looks like this, okay? Use their words back to them. It helps them know you're listening. Okay, so you want to gather information. This is not set in stone again. This is all up for grabs. So anything you guys see in here, any additions, subtractions, all up for grabs. One of the things I think is important is that everybody have a full agreement with what, at least comfortable with what we're doing, right? Maybe we have a small differences on some of the wordings or something like that, or some techniques, no big deal. But what I really want to make sure is that everybody's on board, so that you're not like, oh, I'm just wasting my time doing this. I want you to feel like, hey, this is something that's really valuable for me. You know what I'm saying? So that's why your input is extremely important into every aspect of this. And that's every one of us. I don't view this as a hierarchical structure. I'm not the boss and you're my minion. We're in a mutually beneficial, side-by-side relationship that has no hierarchy whatsoever. You are as valuable as I am to this organization. Okay. In fact, my limitations depend on my ability to reach you. Okay. So my limitations as far as my ability to save children is really limited by my ability to get people, to sell people on this process. Okay. And so it's important for me that everybody feels like, hey, this is something I'm part of. Okay. Anyways, so if you see anything that you want to add to, always tell me. If I have a booger on my nose, tell me. Constructive criticism is always greatly appreciated, especially when you may feel like you might not want to say it because you don't want to push the buttons, but I really want you to say it. Okay. Okay. Gather information. How did you feel about our recent NLI outreach campaign on ending and preventing female genital mutilation? Okay. How did our emails influence your thoughts on these issues? How does this issue affect your career and or the difficulty of your job? How do you think FGM relates to MGM, and how can this information be how can you use this information in your practice? Okay, if you haven't read them yet, okay, would you be interested in reading them and you can get back to me about your feelings? I really think this is a really important issue, and the rates of female genital cutting in the United States are shooting through the roof, and we really need to be aware of this. Can you do me a favor? I'm going to send you another email. Just check them, make sure they're not in your spam. And then what we'll do is I'll call you. I'll call you maybe next Thursday, and we can discuss this at like 2 o'clock. Are you available at 2 o'clock? I'll call you next Thursday, 2 o'clock. I'm just going to get your opinion. We're doing surveys and we're educating people. That's all we're doing. Bam. Okay. Then they read the emails. See, that's the thing, is we can get them to, some of these people are not going to read the emails. So we're going to get them to read the emails. Okay, so if you check your spam filter, I'll send the emails over to you right away. So what you're going to have is, when you're doing this, is you're going to automatically already have access to all these things that you can then send out as links, right? So you can have a list of links that you can send this person. Let me show you this. I created a common copy and paste. Okay, this is in the works. But basically what I created, this is a system called Freeman. It's free software, anybody can use it from Tufts University. It's really easy to use. It helps me to organize things. Anyways, it's free software, so I highly recommend it. Anatomy, so this is like my go-to, and I haven't really fleshed this out in depth, but I wanted it to make it easy so that I could go to one page and just copy and paste things very, very quickly, as opposed to I was using Evernote, and I go in Evernote and I have to search for this topic, and then I can copy and paste. But I really want to make it even faster than that, because with the MIME library, I can respond so quickly to anything very, very quickly, but I also wanted to do that with the written word. Didn't want it to just be mimes. I wanted to be also with the written word. And so what I did is I created this little structure. Here's the link to the anatomy, structure, and function educational stuff on my website. This is the foundation of what we're going to be using for our educational programs for Intactivists. We're going to have an educational program specifically for Intactivists. And there's a lot of anatomy, structure, and function information on that webpage. So if you go to Education Library, and you go down and you scroll down to the anatomy, structure, and function, this is a link you can provide. So I just have that ready. Then I have my go-to. This is my go-to Taylor, Colden, Lockwood. These are the, this is when, you got these people who are like, oh, this is not scientific. Well, here's the science, right? This is another one that I can send them. So this is kind of like you know how when you're like online and somebody just sends out this massive thing, most people are not going to read those or follow those links. But I use it as a way to show them that I'm educated. Basically, I know it's just kind of weird, but some people will read it, some people won't. Penis size reduced. Okay, that's very, very valuable. If you don't know that the foreskin has androgen receptors that are responsible for controlling your penile growth, and that your penis is literally 1 to 2 inches smaller than it would have been had you not had your receptors of growth removed. So the idea that's very important for men, right? Leap of logic. Let's see. These are microbiome, mechanical functions, lubrication, pheromones, basic, well written. Here's another one. So you can just include a lot of these. Like sometimes I'll even include like, let's see, I have some in here. The Cancer study. I don't know if you heard of the Cancer study. Anyways, these are just quickly copy and paste. Here's some ones that are small. So anesthesia. I put these smaller so you can use them on Twitter. So if you type, because Twitter's got like a 240 page character limit or something like that. So anyways, this is something you can create for yourself. What I'm going to do eventually is, once I've gotten this more fleshed out, is I'll share this with you guys. So if you guys get free mind, you'll eventually you'll have access to this, and you can adjust this and make it your own. We all have our own style of doing things. Okay, so that's the copy and paste thing. Just a way of making yourself more effective at responding to on social media. We want to give Intactivists power on social media too. That's so every aspect that we can do. Even though I think social media is not the end all be all, I still think it's extremely valuable. That's how we all got in touch with each other and everything too. Okay, so encourage and empower. Encourage critical questioning of the issue. Tell them things like, I think if you looked at it from a different perspective, I think you might even change your mind. Say things like that. Tell them that this is something, all the things that you're already against, this is just like those. Tell them things like that. Be honest and straightforward with them. Say, look, I know you can grow on this. I know you have that potential. I really want you to really just take a second look. Just question this. Question your own assumptions. Ask them to critically question it. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. You're not pushing them into anything, right? You're asking them for something that's simple. It's not a big question. Do not pressure, okay? This is not the time to, oh, you have to do this, or no, that's bullshit, or anything like that. If somebody says something ridiculous, UTI or something like that, then you say, oh, you know what? Spout out something. It takes 133 circumcisions to prevent one UTI, and most UTIs are easily treatable with antibiotics. So there's far less ways of preventing UTIs. And in fact, it's only the supposed protective mechanism is only for the first year of a child's life. So after that, there's pretty much no value to it. And this is harmful. This is harmful psychologically. Just, you know how to do it. You guys, you're an Intactivist. You know how to respond to this. Okay. Allow them to grow, plant the seed on this phone call. Okay. Answer any questions.
Quick, short.
What's that?
To the point answers.
Yeah. Well, when we talked about with Paul, is the main thing is to answer open-ended questions. So how do this email influence your thoughts on these issues? Instead of saying, did these make you feel bad about this issue? The answer is yes or no. You're asking them to elaborate. And so the questions are giving them an option to open the conversation, right? If there's a full-on conversation to be had and this person is all in, go all in, right? Don't, like, this first phone call is just for those people that are not as receptive, right?
I like the quick go-to categories, where you're like, okay, someone's talking about this, like, what can I come up with for a response quickly? Because, especially when you're in heat of the moment, you're just like, like, you're like going off, all ticked off or whatever. So I think having a standard like reply that is rational but gets to the point, like what you're trying to say without freaking out on somebody, is important, because especially, I mean, it happens to all of us, but like, you see what people are saying and then your immediate reaction is to like spaz, and then you like get really sidetracked and you don't give them any information that they can relate to. So I really like the idea of having like the quick facts categories, to be able to go into something really quickly and find a super easy answer.
I want to the point where we're going to practice on these phone calls. Like, these phone calls are where we all kind of meld together and really flesh out these ideas. What I want to do is actually practice the, like, we're going to get on these phone calls and we're going to practice with each other. We've got a few weeks before we're actually going to need to do any Tele-Intactivism. So the way I look at it, just kind of like giving you a heads up of where we're at. We've already got the database. It's time to go to phase 2. So we're going to start sending probably next week or the week after. I really have to make sure this email we're working on right now is perfect. The other 3 are perfect and ready to go, that we're all in agreement. They're edited. They're, my grammar, I am challenged. I am grammarly challenged. So I need support when it comes to grammar. So anybody that wants to help with editing is so valuable. I think that's why I really appreciate that, Sarah. Okay, so answer any questions. So you do have the ability to go. So here's the deal. It's like, I know there's even missing holes in my knowledge. Like, I want to be able to spout out the numbers 100%. So I really want to have really strong, solid statistics that we can provide. I'll give you an example. Okay, so saying, mentioning about the, Taylor, Colden, Lockwood, and then Meissner corpuscles, and knowing what a Meissner corpuscle is, or where the ridge band, the frenular delta, knowing the fundamentals of the neurology is important, so you can spout those out. Knowing, that I think, let's see, was it 2.3 to 1.6, I think, is the ratio of potential loss from the HIV studies in Africa, and it comes out to 1.3% of an actual benefit. So you want to be able to spout that off, the relative versus the actual benefit, and have some statistics on that. Like, I know there's really some powerful statistics, like using condoms is like 734% better. Abstaining from sex for 7 days of the year is far more reducing in HIV than cutting off the most sensitive functional part of your genitals. So, so you want to be able to have that access right off the top of your mind when you're answering these phone calls, because you are talking to a professional class. You know what I mean? These are people that are educated. If you get on there and you don't have that knowledge, again, you made the phone call. So I would rather you make the phone call than not, but let's get that knowledge in your head so that you can feel comfortable responding to those, and maybe even having something like this where you can just, okay, we have a list of the potential things, and you can just pop it out if you don't know the statistic right off the top of your head. And that way you can start to memorize it that way anyways. So I want to have a list of that. That's another thing to do. Let me add this to the to-do list. List of statistics, studies, scientists, and data. Okay, so these are in the main things, like those main things. The main things I use like my fingers: anatomy and physiology, structure and function is like my first finger. Number 2 is psychology, okay, psychological impact. Number 3 is medical or social and history. Okay, number 4. So I just have a list that I go down, and I'm always going to have something to say. And even if I get to that spot where I'm kind of running out of stuff to say, I always have something. that I think that this person needs to know. And really, like the most easiest things that I do, one of my most easiest things, I say, look, it's half the surface area. It's a third to a half the surface area and 75% of the nerves. Right then and there, it's just, that's a very dramatic statistic, right? And then if somebody questions me further, I can say, look, you know, people will throw, oh, really good thought right here is the common retorts. So common retorts that you get, so someone could say, you know, for instance, people that are slightly educated on this, people that are pro-mutilators, they look at our arguments and they try to pick them apart. So one of the things they'll use is, for instance, people say, oh, there's 20,000 nerves. The reason why I don't say 20,000 nerves is because there's never been like a legit scientific counting and study of the number of nerve endings in the foreskin. So when we say that, we give the counter argument a little bit of power, right? We don't want to give them any power. So I use 75%. If somebody balks on that, I can say, look, the only person that's ever taken a microscope and looked at is the doctors Taylor, Cold, and Lockwood. Okay? Saying their name, the names of the doctors is very valuable. Okay? That immediately puts you as a professional. And any professional that hears that is going to recognize that you're knowledgeable about this and you're educated on it. Anyone, basically anybody, really. So if you're able to spit out the names like that, okay, that's why it's so important that we know. You know, we have like maybe like a flyer list or like a card list that you can go through, and you know, we'll make that for you guys. So what was I going to call it? You know, just a card, flip cards that you can, you know, quiz yourself with, and you know that you have the action. You know, for instance, the pudendal nerve. The pudendal nerve is the nerve that innervates the underside of the frenulum. Okay, and that innervates the frenulum. Well, the dorsal nerve is the one on the top, right? The dorsal nerve block doesn't block the pudendal nerve. That's why all these children having the dorsal nerve block are screaming in pain. Okay, you can't block the pudendal nerve with, you know, without, you know, they don't have the access to do it. It's just more complex. The nerve system is too complex for them. So if you know this, then you can say that, right? For instance, there was a doctor who came across Intactivist at one of the AAP videos. The doctor denied the tissue that adheres the foreskin to the glands at puberty, right? That tissue has a name, right? So when the Intactivists were approaching them, say you have to scrape, you have to rip it, you have to scrape it. Blade's like, there's no tissue that you have. She does them. She's a doctor, and she's doing it. She's breaking the tissue. She doesn't even know the name of it. Well, if you can spout off, that's the balano-prepubital lamina. You sound educated. You sound like you know what you're talking about. It's a big word, you know, it's, you know, utilize, you know, this doesn't take a lot. I mean, you don't have to study this stuff for a long time to memorize all these little details. These are small little details, but they add so much credibility to your position that, that I want to make sure that all Intactivists have access to them, right? So that's another important thing that we're going to be doing is making sure that raising up the level of Intactivist education. And eventually, during these phone calls, we're going to create videos that we're going to utilize to educate the Intactivists. Okay. I think I've really covered almost everything I wanted to cover. Is there any thoughts, additions, ideas? Do I have a booger on my nose anywhere? What do you guys think? Sarah's a critical questioner. I appreciate that. Go ahead, Sarah.
To be honest with you, well, the flashcards thing that you were talking about, I do like that because as much as I know already, there's still like so much that I don't know. So for myself personally, I just like want to do that. And just because I feel like, especially then when we're all talking with each other, when we're all like doing this work with everybody, it's nice to know that everybody knows what you're talking about and like everybody knows the same things, you know, because like we all have the same idea. We all know for the most part what we're talking about. But like when you come down to like dorsal slits and all these things, like I've heard the word and I do sort of know what it is, but I don't know exactly what it is, right? So like I have the gist of it, but like I think it's important that we all know these things. I mean, if a doctor's not going to know it and we're going to sit here and preach about how it's so wrong, we should really know all of it.
Yeah, because if that person, the intactivist, had known the name of the tissue during that, they could have really laid into that doctor. Because I was like, I wish I was there. Like, oh damn, I would have really like, what do you? I would have like went off. Like that would have been a great.
It's the littlest thing, and it can make you end up looking like you don't know anything just because they don't know anything, and they're looking at you like, okay, you say you know what you're talking about. What are you talking about then? And like the one word that you can't come up with can ruin the entire vibe, the whole conversation. Like they'll just be like, oh yeah, you obviously don't know what you're talking about. So,
and the thing is we know we're the most educated people on the planet about this. Like, you know, in that talking about that email, like we literally have I'm talking the intact doctors, the other 80% of the world, none of them know what they themselves have in their own pants. Like none of them. Like literally, I was driving Uber for a little while and I had a heart doctor from England in my car. And he had no idea. Because of course, he's a doctor from England. I'm kind of have a conversation with him. And so he was shocked. I'm like naming things. He's like, this Uber driver's teaching me anatomy that I don't know. And you're a doctor with 30 years of experience in medical school under your belt. And I'm sitting here teaching you about the anatomy that's in your pants. Like that's alarming that situation exists in the world. That's crazy. It's ludicrous. Like literally doctors. And I don't know how this happens. Like if I had the body part, I might be interested in learning about it. I mean, it's a fascinating body part. Like if you know where the sensation is, you know how to better stimulate it if you have those body parts, right? So wouldn't you be interested in learning about where the ridge band is, the frenular delta and the frenulum? Wouldn't you want to know that? Wouldn't you want to know about the stress reflex, stress receptors in the dartos fascia, the smooth muscle that's involved in it, and all the tissues and the nerve endings and all that kind of stuff, and what a Meissner corpuscle is? Don't you want to know that? Like that could influence your techniques. That can influence, educate your woman. Hey, baby, look at this spot. Touch this. Da, da, da. So we literally have this. I mean, like sexologists, their job, ology is the study of. They study sex, but yet they don't know half the anatomy involved in sex.
Well, then it makes everything they say seem like bullshit, because I'll come across articles like different sex articles, and just like what you're saying, and they're coming up with all these, like how to make your sex better or why it's not so great, and you're reading it and you're just like jaw dropped, because you're just like, I cannot even believe that this is your job, and everything that you're saying, it comes down to one single thing, and you didn't mention anywhere in this article. It's like your whole article is complete bullshit and you don't even know it.
I've been on podcasts with sexologists who have PhDs in this subject and don't know the basic anatomy of the male genitals. They do not know.
The article wouldn't exist if they knew what circumcision was. The article wouldn't simply exist if they had a clue what circumcision was, So it's like, it's mind-boggling. I can't ever grasp onto it. I don't know if I ever will.
It's completely and the antithesis of everything we've thought about our society our whole lives. So everything that we tell ourselves, everything that we think, everything that is part of what we claim to be as a society is massively violent and literally turns on its head. So, if you want to claim to be a good person, you're not a good person if you do this. Sorry. This is harmful to children. It's crazy.
But I was like getting so stressed out being at work. I don't even really know what work has to do with it. But it feels better to have more time to do this, because this is what I actually want to do.
Exactly. That's how I feel too. I think that I have given my best at my career, and at this point in my life, it's just time for me to do something more meaningful, and I'm just not going to waste it any longer. There is no reason why we cannot move culture on this within 5 years. Most definitely. I mean, there's no reason. So especially right now where home birthing is kind of taking a resurgence. I mean, this is a prime opportunity for us, especially with the doula and midwife. So I think, you know, we can really make the argument. So I'm really looking forward to working with you, Sarah. So I'm absorb what I guess has been presented this evening, and let's regroup and, you know, rethink about what we can do to partner together and end circumcision.
Did you tell her, Michelle, about the certification for the doulas and midwives? I think that's really fascinating.
No, I didn't get to talk with her in great detail about that like I had with the other person I've actually been able to communicate with by phone. But that's why I kind of told her, I was like, come listen, get a feel, we'll connect, and then kind of decide. But no, I'll talk about the certificate. Like I mentioned here just about the trauma-based one for, you know, trauma-informed for therapists. So definitely I want to do. So one of the common things I see with my YourWholeBaby group is that there's always parents coming home from the pediatrician and complaining, feeling belittled. I don't know what other word you want to use, but just their inability to assert proper intact care without meeting some sort of resistance or being dismissed, laughed off, whatever. Much of what I've seen when I've been researching the doulas in California, many of the services that they offer, advocacy is written all over it. Advocacy this, advocate. They will attend appointments with you. They'll do, you know, some of the antepartum appointments. They'll also, I've seen a few offer postpartum. And when I spoke with a doula by phone and talked a little bit about this, you know, they said it's primarily for the mother. But I said, well, what do you think about offering a service where, or, you know, what I think I framed it initially, what could I do to support you in feeling confident about asserting this information to your pediatrician to protect your son's, you know, genitals from forced retraction? And then I think I took it a step further and said, you know, what would your thoughts be about us offering a certification program and offering a referral service, basically, because all of our YourWholeBaby families, every parent that we would essentially be getting to save from circumcision, I would want to connect them with this doula, and I would want this doula then to attend this pediatric appointment with our information in hand. So that, again, the doctors are understanding that there are advocates that are aware, we're holding you accountable, it is unreasonable and unacceptable for your patient and the parent to feel intimidated about asserting this information. That has to stop, like right now. And that is where I feel like we have to intervene, because when I'm seeing this need and I don't have an outreach and I'm a nurse and I'm sitting at home and I'm trying to solve this problem, when he came with this, I felt like, okay, well, this can maybe connect some of these dots, because like he said, this is a population of clinical professionals that are hungry for referrals. They're hungry for the business. So if we can somehow market to them and say, look, we have families right now. Every time I have a family posted in that group with this nonsense from their provider, I want to connect them to a doula advocate in their area that's been certified by us that they are knowledgeable and intact care to accompany this parent to this appointment to review our information.
Michelle,
and then get that.
I'm sorry. I was going to ask you, did you contact, what's her name, about the list, the doulas list? She has it on her website, I think.
Franny. Yes, I did talk with her. Yes, I did. So she has offered that. She's already kind of done this up in Montreal. She started it with that group up there. She said, yes, these are all people that are supporters of our message. They will, you know, advocate on behalf of the infant. And so that's a starting point. So kind of what we're doing is kind of replicating what she has done up there, just nationally.
I want to use her website if we can.
Yes, she's given us permission.
Okay.
She's given us permission.
The reason why is I don't see NLI website as a go-to for, I see it more of a go-to for Intactivists, not really like. Go ahead.
And I think the name of hers is like Circumcision Resource. So it's going to be something that's easily searchable by someone that's looking for this information and diverting them from our message here. So I did talk with her. She's given us that okay to expand it to include everyone that we see appropriate for that particular population. I mean, we'll have to come up with something else. You know, when I talked with the other Sarah about the therapist type of aspect, we would have to create some sort of other database to incorporate them, a referral base. But for the doulas, I think we're going to use her infrastructure. I think your idea of using stuff that's already there, that people have already done, utilizing that, growing that is the best idea, at least to start. And if we don't have it, then we create it. But
we don't want to recreate existing structures, and we want to get involved with other Intactivists. So it's kind of a 2-for-1. We get benefits of, you know, getting Franny involved in what we're doing, and also it's already there, it's already created, and it's more of, I think it's more of a professional platform for that type of goal. So I don't know, I mean, we may have to, the black website with the dark NLI is more of a Intactivist website. It's not geared towards professional. I need a different color scheme. I would need a different layout, really. I would do the layout completely different for that type of thing. So I don't really want to have to create 2 different websites. So if you use her website, any Intactivist that's already doing something, we don't want to recreate what they're doing and just double, you know, we want to use whatever is already there. So there's a lot of resources that are, go ahead.
One of the other things that I kind of had in mind for this, I've kind of already shared with Daniel, I mean, Brett and Finley can also hear, but when I'm doing this outreach to these doula and midwives, one of the questions I want to ask, because I've kind of been coming up with my own questions too, and plus what me and Daniel and others have contributed by what he has there. But I kind of outright do want to ask, do you know of any pediatricians or providers that are intact friendly or not performing circumcision? I immediately want to do outreach to those physicians and get them added to our YourWholeBaby database for provider referrals, because again, I have always parents asking for referrals in their areas of pediatricians that are intact friendly, and our list is too limited. And I have to basically call doctors out on that. It's a shame that I don't have enough physicians around the country to refer families to for the safety of their son's genitals. It's insane. It is insane.
Yeah, because we want to create
that is kind of my thoughts on approaching this.
We want to create a whole
I want to use
system.
this information for those purposes.
Yeah, we want to create a system, and I think this system that we're creating, that anybody can utilize it. You know what I mean? Like Michelle's going to be running this in California, and Lee's going to be running it in New York. But somebody in New Jersey or Georgia or Hawaii or whatever can jump on and just say, "Hey, I'm going to do this," and they could immediately start doing something and like this with little time involved. I mean, you could do the 15 minutes a day. In a month, you could have hundreds of contacts with 15 minutes a day. And then those hundreds of contacts can turn into thousands of babies being saved. Like, you really got to understand how powerful this is. You know, this is not being done. These people are not being reached out to. There's nobody else going to teach these people this information. So unless we give them the information, the chance and the likelihood of gaining this information is in our current society is vastly reduced. Now, in 10 years, I think it's going to be much more common knowledge. But what I envision us is creating that, being an influence in that eventual culture of understanding this issue on a deeper level, which I think is with the professionals. We can get the professionals on board. That's why the doulas and midwives I thought was such a powerful ones. I almost considered doing child psychologists first. But I realized that the doulas and midwives are going to have a more immediate effect, whereas the child psychologist is more something that it's going to create a long-term change. It's more of a longer-term plan, because, you know, the child psychologist is dealing with a child that's already damaged. He's dealing with children who've already been through it. So for him to change that or influence that is going to be less. But for them to understand it, I think is very valuable. And for them to start understanding it and then start writing about it, like Psychology Today has some really good articles about it. So psychology itself.
And I agree with you, Daniel. I think that is because again, as we continue to unwrap this and society really starts to become aware, we can't handle the opiate epidemic. We can't handle suicide already in this country. We can't handle the mental health crisis that is already underway without most of society being aware of this. Once we do reach the tipping point strategy on this of, you know, the larger majority being aware and men are becoming more aware of their bodies and what's happened, I don't know how we're going to manage it. I don't. And so that's why I'm with you that kind of might need to be another priority, because I need therapy.
Mm-hmm.
I need therapy after dealing with this shit. And I don't have nobody to call on. And I work for the largest health system in Northeast Indiana, and there is not a psychologist, psychiatrist, therapist within my entire organization that is competent to treat an individual. I don't think if a female genital cut, I don't even think we're competent to treat that. So there's a huge gap. And so I'm with you but that's just my own personal bias, I guess, because that's the population I, work closely with.
Yeah.
But
I think that, and then the next one might be college professors, university professors. They're very easy to access. They've got phone numbers to a lot of them, emails to a lot of them. You can gather the information very, very quickly. It's on one website. The university professors
I want to get out of here.
Yeah. And we need
and
to
I think it's important. I think it's important that we're reaching out to them before he tours. So whatever campus he's going on, we are outreaching to those department heads, to those student organizations on campus.
Yeah, Michelle mentioned
that's what we need to be doing. That's what we need to be doing when when Bloodstained Men hits a campus and when Cockfight hits that campus. We need to be flooding their ass like a political campaign and letting them know we are in town. So that's how I think, so we're all doing our doula stuff, we're doing our therapist stuff, but an event is happening around this country, a lawsuit hits, we're hitting legal departments, that is the level of execution this needs to have over the next two years, so that it is, we see and the thing I keep stressing to Daniel is I need, as a clinician, I need measurable outcomes. So we have to figure out a way to measure what we're doing. We have to be able to, see our results, because everything that we're doing online, when we're standing out on street corners protesting, while it's therapeutic and I love it, and I will be there every opportunity my financial life allows me to be, we don't know really how we're impacting. And with this, I think we have a real possibility of being able to really track what's happening with the people that we're outreaching. I want to kind of develop questions for us to kind of track what is the now, and then in 5 years when we're doing outreach to these same individuals, what their responses are. So that's really important too with this type of outreach. If there's anybody scientific or statistical that's in this, we need to really kind of request someone to be analyzing our results and what we're doing with this outreach.
I think
that's important to me.
I think a lot of the, as we get into this later stages, especially in the 2 or 3 campaigns, once we're 2 or 3 campaigns in, you're going to, even the phone calls I made when I was doing the media outreach database, like they were just, and I've been so busy, so swamped. I've been trying to get to them, and I need to go back through those and listen to them and find out which ones I think are valuable, because I know there's a lot of them that were really interesting conversations. And I want you guys to kind of see what I've already done with those conversations and kind of see how I talk to them or whatever. You guys can kind of see what I did wrong or make ideas for yourselves or stuff like that. But once you start you're going to have these conversations. In my opinion, by the time we're 3 stages into this, you're going to get that validation on the phone calls. And what I encourage us to do when we're making these phone calls is to record them. You can record them personally and never share them, but you can also record them and maybe share them by getting the person's getting their permission to share the phone calls. Okay, because I think it's legal. You have to someone has to legally know you're recording them before you can record them. So we don't break any laws. We'll ask them, and then we'll say, hey, do you mind if we use this for educating other Intactivists, or do you mind if we put this on a YouTube channel so people hear these kind of conversations we're having? I think that once you start having a bunch of those videos start to pop up and people start hearing these conversations and we start sharing this with other Intactivists, I think what's going to happen is the other Intactivists can say, hey, you know what, this is different than what I've been hearing. So this is different than what I'm used to, and I really want to be involved in this. Awesome, Sarah. Thank you for joining us. Your contributions were really appreciated.
Sarah.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah, we're about to shut down anyways. Anybody else want to add anything? Brett, real quick before everybody goes, Brett, I wanted to say this about Brett. Brett is one of the organizations I think is the most important as far as outreach, and this is why. If I was to write a list of things top to bottom of who is the most important people to reach out to, the number one probably on that list would be young adults. Okay, now we're creating a system for chasing professionals, but this is not a system for reaching young adults, who are the most important aspect of our outreach. So I will freely admit that we are not even targeting the most important aspect. We do need to target the professionals because they're the ones that are teaching the children, but we need somebody out there targeting the children. And how do we do that? I don't think it's going to be a database or through emails or through maybe even Tele-Intactivism. Maybe there's options that somebody can come up with, but really I think the importance is getting somebody out there on the ground at these games, like where the games are, and actually going to the student organizations.
I think the student organization outreach is a place where we should start.
Yeah, because we didn't even do that. I mean, when I was doing the university database, I didn't gather, I didn't have it said, hey, let's find out these student groups, whether it's a logic group or a chess group or, just whatever, a lot of these are activists and stuff like that. They're involved in other things. So let's get them, let's get this information to them, those students that are in these groups and organizations, and let's try to encourage them to create their own organizations.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, Brendon, who was that organization in your group that you were talking about? You kind of liked the way they did their outreach or something. Brett was talking about an organization. You know what I'm talking about? You mentioned it before. I don't know if you want.
Are you talking about voice or Anonymous for the Voiceless?
Yeah. No, you had this group, or that you were utilizing some of their thoughts on developing volunteers.
Yeah, but we borrowed some of their ideas. Yeah.
Anyways,
I was gonna say we developed Cockfight to try to make Intactivism cool and fun to appeal to young people, and it really seems to be working. I mean, we get really good responses from the college kids. We went to I think 7 or 8 college football games last fall, and the kids love it. I mean, I got all kinds of pictures of the kids holding the signs up. And
Brent is a warrior, man.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to tell you, because I still have a couple of the stacks of cards. I'm going to Nevada in 12 days, and I'm going to go to skate parks there, and I'm really excited to give the cards out and everything. Because I live in North Carolina, and I go to the same skate park every day, all day. So it's going to be cool. It's going to be not the same people I see every day. So yeah, I'm excited though. But I'm going to leave April 15th, and I'm going to be there till the 24th, and probably be at the skate park almost every day. And of course, have the cards and stuff.
That's fantastic.
Awesome.
Last time I was in Nevada, I didn't have the cards, so I didn't. It sucked when I mentioned it to people. I was like, well.
See, hey Bentley, have you thought about maybe helping us with the print committee?
Hang on, let me cut my phone up. I can't hear that one.
I was going to say maybe helping take over the print committee. That might be something. I mean, we really need that, because those flyers are so valuable.
Yeah, okay, sorry. I was having trouble because of my phone.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Do you hear what I asked?
Yeah, I got a fat puppy in my lap.
Can you, Daniel, just in general, can you just describe the printing need that you have? Just kind of give me an idea, because as I'm doing this outreach and I'm trying to explain what your needs are, I will have a better idea.
The print committee is basically the goal of the print committee is to make sure that all Intactivists have access to printed materials. So flyers, postcards, stamps, even bumper stickers, shirts. Shirts are really.
So at this point, we're still not just keeping it to where we're referring people to their other favorite Intactivist organization to get printed materials that are already in production, or
we could use,
what do you
we
think?
could use Brett's, we could use, there's a
Yeah,
bunch of them. I have some
like
already.
2,000. I have like 8,000 cards.
See? Need
if I
those. So, you know, Brett's card is really good. I don't know if you've seen it. Well, I know Bentley has, but
Yeah, our card is great. The only problem is our website is lacking, right? Which we
That's
need,
okay.
we need to get.
yeah, we'll
we
get
need to
that. I
work
mean,
on it.
Brett's overwhelmed right now. So,
What
what I was going to say is,
like, yeah.
I was just going to say one thing. Give Brett money. Brett has a 501c3, whatever you call it. He has a nonprofit. We're going to create a list of Intactivist things to do. One of the top things at the list is to create a small monthly donation. Okay, $5, $10, $25, $50, maybe $100, depending upon your financial situation. But I want everybody to contribute. Everybody should be doing some sort of monthly, continual, and you set it up through your bank, so you have to think about it. Just set up a repeating send, and you know, like Brett can take that money and do what. I mean, I don't need money to do what we're doing, right? It's not costing me anything to be here. In fact,
Brett, how do you use the money? Is this what you're
Brett's
using
gonna
when you travel to the campus?
well, he needs the money for traveling.
Go
ahead.
God, we stretched our money pretty far. I've donated a lot of money myself, so we actually haven't. What we spent the donations on so far is really just helping Intactivists come to our events, like paying for their gas money and stuff.
So you're sponsoring for other people to come protest with you.
I kind of missed the first part of what you said, but
I said you're covering the travel expenses for those that come and protest with you from anywhere within the country.
Well, not from anywhere in the country. No. We usually get from like one day, you know, one day drive, you know, like just a few hours away. We just a lot of people that come are like, you know, our moms and stuff. So they don't have a lot of extra money. So if we can just cover their gas, they can show up to our events. You know, and what I usually tell them is we'll pay for your gas if you bring a friend and you stay for the whole protest. You don't like leave, you know, after 10 minutes and then or something. So that's
we're not trying to give them a vacation. We're trying to get them.
Yeah, but I mean, they're bringing kids along. You never know with kids. You never know.
Oh yeah, we cut them some slack, you know, if they make.
Yeah, I had to leave. The last time I protested, I think we had to leave about an hour early at least, I think, because the kids got so hot, and it was just no shade, and they were, you know, having a meltdown. So
people make an honest effort, yeah.
Okay, I just was curious. I just didn't know what you did with the money. I mean, I contribute to Bloodstained Men fairly regularly, but I also, you know, have watched what you've done, and I, you know, support that. And I'm, you know, if you can, you know, better utilize the money right now, especially in preparation for your fall campaign, then I can definitely.
Yeah, we are very frugal with our money right now. I mean, we've had to be because I haven't been as well known as Bloodstained Men, but right now our expenses we're considering. We are thinking about getting a Rooster mascot suit. So that would be one of our biggest expenses or investments so far.
That's awesome.
What's good about I hope people
hot wearing that. So it's going to be very hot wearing that, isn't it? I mean, especially the early part of the season. When are you starting your first protest?
Oh, I haven't really looked at the next college football season, you know, but we're going to do things before then too. We were doing state fairs. I don't know if those will probably happen this summer. Those are good. We really need to this spring. We really need to go back to the college campuses where we were at in the fall.
The college campuses are so.
I agree. I feel like that's where pretty much almost every single protest at this point needs to be happening.
Yep.
Yeah, I anywhere else is a waste of a day, is a waste of Intactivist time. If it's not on a college campus at this point, I don't see where the message is falling on deaf ears. Again, nothing measurable, no meaningful interaction.
I agree with you.
So I agree. And the state fair thing I think is pretty good. There's a lot of foot traffic. You know, the idea is the foot traffic. So a county fair, state fair, city fair, whatever. I was almost thinking about going down to our Three Rivers Festival this year. But yeah, I agree that you have what you're doing, I do think is the right direction. So
yeah,
I completely support that.
Yeah, that's why I want to get Brett on here so I can promote him because.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I said, like, the weeks, once you do kind of tie your schedule together, I think for your particular outreach would be where we would be doing student organizations for every campus. I just went to my college campuses the last time I was saying this to Daniel, just to see the 20 or 30 different organizations that there, and they have 4 or 5, they have the president, the board of whoever, and all of their emails and all of their phone numbers are there. So it is at the end of the day kind of an easy target. And even if it is just saying, hey, we want you to know Intactivists are going to be on your campus this day, be on note. And by then they'll have our information. We've already given them the background of what's happening, so they have some knowledge to work with. I think that when I've been at protests and we're kind of just popping up here, we're here, everyone's, kind of surprised. Intactivists aren't aware. They're posting, oh, I wasn't aware you were in town today. I would have been down there, that type of thing. It's just that there's too much faultiness that's happening within this movement that is unnecessary. And so I think that what Daniel has here is a recipe of kind of tying what everybody's doing together in a sense. So and reaching people that we wouldn't normally reach. Like, we don't know that the people walking by are therapists, and they can kind of dismiss us walking by. When we're calling them and confronting them, it's going to be a little bit harder for them to dismiss, especially if we continue to pursue this as a way to outreach to these people, because another Intactivist group can come along and contact these same people. Well, I don't know that NLI contacted you. We are with so-and-so and so-and-so. So we're calling you on our behalf, So at the end of the day, I think that this is a real way to hold people accountable. And I think that supporting you on these campuses should be also an outreach that we take as importance, because I think these college campuses are so important. It's so important. I think high schools are important. And since we don't have access to them, this is the next best thing.
Who says we don't have access to them? I'm thinking about, there's a high school 4 blocks from my house. I'm thinking about going there pretty soon, actually.
I actually have distributed information at the high schools, but at the end of the day, I mean, it is a little bit more. It's a little bit more. You're talking to adults when you're on a college campus, so no parents are going to come hunting you down. Whereas if you're at the school, you probably are going to get involved with a parent or security guard or something. So college campuses, I think maybe in 3 or 4 years we could probably do a high school, no questions asked. But right now, I think infiltrating the college campuses should be our next plan of attack in terms of protest. The next 3 years we should be heavy hitting these campuses. Bloodstained Men should be hitting them. We should be calling for national days of our protests locally on our campuses. That should probably definitely be something that evolves, because I feel like any other day is a wasted day of protest. And I've been out there a handful of times, and that's just my opinion. 1 year into Intactivism. So what you're doing, bruh, is
college campuses are
it's going to get the job.
So
powerful. I know.
Sometimes it's hard to talk on this thing because it's kind of hard to jump in the conversation just because the lag. So if you talk over each other, don't worry about it. It's no big deal. Go ahead, Brett. What were you saying?
I was just gonna say, I think, I toured with the Bloodstained Men for a few years, and I really think that the Cockfight brand is much better to reach the young people. I mean, Bloodstained Men is they kind of developed a great model for getting media attention, because you know if you probably heard, if it bleeds it leads in the news, right? So they really they did a great job. They do a great job getting just in the headlines, just articles written about them and stuff, because it's so sensational,
Well, now
right?
they
Blood
do.
and everything. But if
Now
you want,
they do.
oh yeah, with the next
They didn't
one,
before. They didn't before.
exactly.
They do
Right.
now.
I was going to say here locally, there was very little when they toured here. I even think since probably the time that you've done that, because again, I've only been involved since 2019. I would have toured with them that spring here in the Midwest. We had no media, maybe one small media come out, but yeah, no, not here. So that may be true in your market, but not here. Not at all.
I know what Brett's saying.
So if that's a false belief.
He's saying that they're a good potential for, I mean, they're a thing to push the media to get a story written. Like they're highly valuable.
Yeah,
to get
I
a story
agree.
written.
That's a better, yeah.
It might be easier for me to get a story written about them than it is about Brett. Just because of it's more, well, first off, it's geared towards more of a national family-oriented thing, protest group, whereas Brett's targeting youth, and he's more.
I don't know. Cockfight sounds so college to me.
Yeah.
Cockfight sounds so college to me.
That's my point. That's my point. I'm saying that Bloodstained Men was good for getting in the news, whereas we developed Cockfight as a way to reach young people, and we want the students
I love it.
to join our movement. We want to inspire them and galvanize the students. And
how do you feel like it went last season? Do you feel like you were able to get anybody to engage?
We get lots of names. I mean, that's why I actually need your guys' help, because I need help with an onboarding plan for all these kids. That we get all these names, but I need volunteers to help, contact them, and we really need a volunteer to mentor these kids at each school. And it's tough to put all that together. That's something that NLI could really.
We could help you on that, definitely. In fact, the website is more, I think, more geared towards younger adults as well.
Yeah,
the color scheme. So to me, it's going to be matched more like that than it would be with a doula list and a doctor list. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So you're envisioning, I guess I'm asking Brett, you're envisioning, so the people, you've had this interaction with them that day. They have said, hey man, I'm digging what you're doing. I want to be down.
Well,
you're okay with it?
Yeah. Well, I ask them. You can tell if they're a little more interested in the average person. And I ask them. I get their information. We have a lot of contact info, and then I'll even make a note. I'll this guy or this girl. They seem like they have leadership potential. And we'll write maybe some notes.
And you have what campus they're from too? Yeah. And are you visiting those same campuses this fall?
Yeah, we'll go back. I'm in Kansas City, so so far we kind of go 1 day's drive to all the universities.
You'll be interesting to find out is how do you, my question, sorry, Michelle, let me just ask this real quick. How does a organization such as a student-run organization, one of the ones I mentioned off the top of my head is called Young Americans for Liberty. It's like a group of organization. I just know they're on all these college campuses.
Oh yeah.
So YAL, they call it Young Americans for Liberty. And I was thinking, how do you go through the process to get established on a university as an organization? How do you create that system? That would be very fascinating. And can we create that? Do we have to be, do we need a student within the organization? Do we need do we create an organization and go to the university and apply at the university?
I told you, here's the reality. And I think that the minute we get to digging into this is where I said, all this shit is already freaking here. There was a men's group. There was it might even have been labeled a men's rights groups on Purdue's campus here in my community. So there is probably already a group that would already be ideal or the logical pick for picking up our message.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah.
I'm telling you, I think the first minute we really get to looking at this, we're gonna hone in on the 2 or 3 organizations that will take the lead on, and then like I say, then you'll kind of, if you've already got your people identified, you know, from the protests and even this season of gathering more.
Process, yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Those will be the people that then could take and start the organization as being the students. But I think there's already organizations there that would, if they really have an understanding of this information, can already incorporate it in their mission.
Especially like a men's rights group or
yes, there is. Or I mean,
sociology, psychology group. Like
exactly, anthropology, whatever. I mean, there are all of those. So there is groups that should take value in this information initially, that should give us our first kind of collection of people that will become our campus changers in this and moving it in that direction. So we may not have to even worry about that. Right now, I think our focus just needs to be tapping into, like, you know, Daniel, like you said, tapping into what's already there, doing outreach to them. So I think our key right now over the summer should be really gathering that information for all the campuses that he's going to go to.
So we need a new campaign, or we need a new phase 1.
Yeah, we need to get a new database. We need to get a new database for all those student organizations and all those department heads for those campuses that he plans on touring. So if you can just get us a list of who you're going to this season, possibly, so that we can start looking at those college campuses specifically at those departments. And it shouldn't take us very long to gather that information, because it's all kind of compiled together when you look under student organizations on their pages. So it shouldn't take that long. So the department heads may take a little bit longer because you got to go to individual pages to look at that. But I think this should be fairly quick to help us get us started a campaign here at the time Daniel's starting. We'll incorporate them. They'll get the email campaign like everybody else. That, you know, 2 weeks before you are being on campus, that's when we should probably start our call outreach. And then as far as your volunteers, that you already have now, I would say if you kind of have that information gathered somewhat, maybe we can go ahead and incorporate them in what we're kind of doing in database gathering and getting involved with organizing for your protests and all that. So I can kind of do some outreach with that as I'm doing outreach to re-engage Daniel's volunteers, because that's kind of what my first step is doing right now, is I'm realizing that we probably need about 50 volunteers. So I'm going through his list. I'll go ahead and add your list of people to it if you think that they are people that would really like to be involved in some way, even if it is, like I say, helping gather information for your campuses and getting involved in outreach and helping participate in your protest, if that's a way to kind of help your thing during that time.
I'm not really sure what the best way to onboard the students are. You know, they're a little bit special because they're very busy with their course load, you know. And
what we do is we offer them, once we have it done, of course, is an online series of 10 videos that all Intactivists can go to get their basic education, and we can just give that to them.
Yeah, we've got to educate them, right?
Once that they're educated, then.
But you got to you've got to combine like a social aspect, you know. It'd be good if we could just screen these films on their campus, you know.
Well, I mean, we could get these kids. I mean, kids like to protest, right? Like how fun it is.
Yeah, I think the point. I think right now is getting them to your protest this coming season needs to kind of be the focus right now. I think if you can get them re-engaged this season, we'll be able to take it to the next level after that.
I like that.
But right now, I'm going to utilize them to gather this bit of information for us on all the key people on your campus that need to know that we're coming, and they need to know this information. Get that distributed and get your protesters there. I think that's what we need to do with that group of people right now.
Okay.
And leave it there. And then when you have them there that day and you're working with them, you re-solidify that relationship. You let them know there's work to do. We, put them back in touch with us. say, hey, look, after today, I'll have Michelle get back in touch with you. We will get them re-engaged at whatever level they want to be.
Let me
There's
just add
so
this.
much to do.
Let me just add this in there, is that damn, I had something to say. I do this sometimes, you know.
No,
But,
it's late. It's late for me. I know, shit.
Yeah.
9:19. What I was gonna say is, we can run these campaigns simultaneously with everybody. Like, we don't have to wait till Brett's like out there. What we can do is, we can start to.
I think don't you think it's gonna fall in your timeline? Because when did you feel like you're about a month away from starting your first campaign? I don't think we'll be too far behind. It's just gonna be kind of gathering.
We're about 2 weeks from starting our first campaign. And the thing is if we could get, like, we need a volunteer who's going to focus on the universities. Like, I could really use some volunteers right now. So anybody that could volunteer to take over the university, I've already got Queensland's university done. I can show you how to do it. Like, there's so much valuable information that if we were running these campaigns right now to the students, we have student media is going to be, you know, is extremely high value target. I've had conversations with student media in Florida. We had one person come by in California during the Bloodstained Men. They did a story on us that they happened to be driving by and saw us. So anyways, those they tend to be more idealistic, more critical of culture, and they tend to be less controlled by the maybe their uppers. And what I'm saying is who owns the whatever newspaper they're working for. So they're less limited in what they can talk about. So I think so if we had that system going to them right now, and even the professors right now, and we started focusing on the professors and the student groups, those two specific groups within the universities, the professors of sociology, cultural anthropology, psychology, philosophy, medical nurses, any type of medical education, you know, any of those types of things, and then also the student groups. And we start running those campaigns now, we could literally change the social background of where these students are going to be, you know, where we're going to be meeting them at, so that when we meet them the following year, there might be a little bit less resistance for them, a little bit easier for them to approach the subject. In fact, they might even find out about it from their professors and their instructors. You know, there's going to be some professors out there that are going to be all on board with this, and they're going to go to town teaching their students this stuff if they get the information. Okay. There's people out there like us, so we just need to get this to them. And it is a numbers game. With any sales, it's a numbers game. And, you know, the more we do this, the more people we have involved, the more volunteers we have, the more people we reach, the more babies we save. And that's just the way it is. So it's going to be.
I agree. Like I said, I agree with you, Daniel. That's why I'm kind of shifting my focus to kind of growing this volunteer base, because I kind of see the amount of work it's going to take, and I know I'm not going to be able to accomplish all that as much as I would like to. I know you're not going to be able to. So I think I have a better idea on where I need to kind of maybe refocus my attention. If Brett could get me that information, I can kind of incorporate that, see how we can maybe utilize some of those students over the summer if they're not tied into a school schedule or something. Like I say, I'll give it a try. That's all I can do with you. If they express interest in you, I'll try to engage them in some way, connect them to your group, and figure out a way to grow our volunteer base.
Okay.
I think that kind of needs to be a priority right now. And like I said, there's enough Intactivists that are, I think, able to do this type of Intactivism. We're all on the line. For all of us that are online posting nonsense, we could be doing way more. So I think that we have a real possibility of engaging more. So if we could kind of divert our energy for the next few months to this, I think that we'll get there. So I'll continue to try to reach out to people I know, if you have suggestions, I'll reach out to them, provide me with that list. You kind of hear my idea. If you want to talk a little bit more about it another day other than now, before I do this outreach specifically to those people, I'm open to that. I can say things that you want me to say in those conversations, because I kind of want to have a full understanding of your mission too. And like I said, your schedule too. I kind of want to know what your schedule is going to be, so I can be sharing that and letting them know, hey, he's going to be on campus that day. We want to get your support. How can we get you involved? That's
Michelle is like,
so.
Wow.
Michelle is like my manager. She just runs shit.
Awesome.
She's in charge, right?
That's awesome.
She runs
Okay.
shit. So
That's fantastic. Yeah. I need to come up with this.
She's got great ideas. She's go-getter, and she's
I'm trying to figure out how to roll this out. So I'm, like I say, I got, Sarah today. I'll continue to work through his list, work through yours, and try to get people re-engaged and try to get a format together. But I think to help your organization for this upcoming season, I think that's probably how we need to approach it, based on what we have and what we can quickly get worked out in a short amount of time to get you going. I think that's what we can do, because I think that what you're doing needs a lot more coverage, and this is a way to do it.
Yeah, Brett needs coverage. Real quick, I want you guys to, before I let you go, I'm going to send this, and I want you to share our last meeting, because I need to grab it real quick. So this is something that I've been wanting to do is get, I think we're all on board here. So I want people that are here to share this. Let me get this copy link address. I'm going to put it in the notes. Okay. And
is that one where I'm visible?
Yeah,
I want that one where I'm visible.
Oh, you are so great in that.
No, I am changing I'm going to get a background. I'm going to do something. I'm going to have to do my hair. It's late. Like I said, I'm getting ready for bed, and you have me on film. Oh.
Okay, you got Sarah's email. We'll put the email together so we can send this to her. And then I'll contact you tomorrow, Michelle. I've got to run because I've got to do something anyways. I'm just going to shut it down. So I really appreciate you guys coming. Thank you, Brett, for coming. I'm glad I really wanted to get you involved.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, I know Brett's got a lot of stuff going on, so anytime we can get him, we're lucky. So I really
I'll try to be here more often. I've been in like crisis mode for a few months here, but
I want to get some people sending you donations. Like, I want people being aware of what you're doing. One of the things is of NLI is not that we don't ask for donations. We want our members to all give donations. We just want them to give them to somebody that really needs the money. And you're somebody that really needs the money. And your system that you're creating is probably, in my opinion, one of the systems that will save the most children of Intactivism in the future, in my opinion. So if we work together, we can, in my opinion, we can vastly extend our reach for each other. Like, I can help, we can run media campaigns for you. We can help you with, organizing your volunteers. We can work together in some sort of way to.
Yeah, I hope you'll think of Cockfight as a close partner of Next Level Intactivism. I mean,
absolutely.
You really could even think of it as like the college outreach branch,
right?
Of NLI. I want to do high schools. I believe it or not, I want to go to high school.
The parent-child interface. Gregory Malchuck's parent-child interface is a very, very powerful leverage. It's a powerful way of developing leverage. And if you understand leverage, leverage is having power or influence over somebody by some other form than just, by some form, right? So leverage would be like, okay, I thought about this with leverage with religious aspect. For instance, there's a lot of Bible verses that are against circumcision. Yet we have these priests that are not teaching these Bible verses. So we can go to them and say, look, you got to teach the whole Bible, man. It's written right here. You got to teach this. And this needs to be known. And this is not being known. And it's your responsibility. You have leverage over them because of what's in the Bible, right? You don't personally have any control over them, but they want to they're supposed to follow the Bible, right? So they have committed to it. So you can use that commitment from them. To,
yeah, that's a whole nother aspect of or kind of approach
a whole nother target
experimented
audience, right?
with. We started going to mega churches. Did you know that?
Yeah, you did say something about that.
Yeah, we've been to a few mega churches already. Been experimenting, but we use a different brand. We have not been using. We don't use Cockfight.
No, Cockfight will not work at the church, right?
No,
hey,
we made new signs that say Galatians 5. We own the URL galatians5.org. So we put galatians5.org at the bottom. And
hey guys, I've really got to run. I'm sorry.
Okay, me too.
But I've really got to run right now. So I'm gonna go. Do you guys want to stay on here and talk? You can. I'm gonna head downstairs. I just gotta take care of something. I'll be back. But
okay.
Feel free to have whatever conversation you want. You don't have to leave right away. Okay. I love you guys. Thank you guys for showing up.
All right.
Thank you, Bentley. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Brett. Appreciate all of you guys.
I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
I'm not going to stay long either because it's so late. But Brett, I did capture your information, and I think that I have a idea to kind of help support you that is in line with what we're already doing. And I'll connect with you, I guess, when your time permits to gather that information.
Send me your info. So yeah, contact me so I have your info.
Definitely, I'll send it in the email.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, it might even make sense for NLI and Cockfight to merge, so we can just all use the same volunteers, to help the same effort. It just like Cockfight could be like one, the college outreach brand, and NLI is like the Intactivist volunteer brand, right? Or
I think that it'll kind of be that arm of it. I think it'll definitely be, and I think that we will develop this strategy, like I say, for all college campuses. I think we'll eventually distribute all this same information, all the college campuses, all the student organizations, all the heads of departments, nursing programs, medical departments, psychology departments. I think that we will get to that point, but I think it's important right now for you, because again, you're getting out here and you're doing this work, and we need more people to get involved locally right now. So I think to quickly kind of launch your piece of it, we're going to see quicker results from launching that, because you're actually in the front lines in those communities also. So we're piggybacking off of each other's work in a sense, and we're helping support you, and then you're coming and reinforcing that men are speaking out, so they're seeing it in their face. I see that let's try it this season. Let's try it this football season, see how it works. If it works, the off season, we build every campus up around the community, around the country up like this. We get students involved, in the off season, and we can grow it. I definitely agree. I'm with you. I think anything that is targeting young people at this point, prior to when they're getting ready to have a baby or even contemplate we gotta influence them here.
Yeah, we
gotta influence them here. And I would like to do it at the high school level, but we're not there yet. So right now, this is you have the next recipe. Daniel has the next recipe for the professionals in our country that don't want to have ethical standards. You have the recipe, I think, for reaching the young people. And I think that that's where we need to be. That's where Intactivism needs to go. Whatever the hell's been going on. Like I said, I don't know how the hell, for the life of me, don't know how the fuck circumcision is still surviving in 2021. But a lot of what I'm seeing is, I think, contributing to that. And we have to be smart. We have to work smarter, not harder. And I support what you're doing. So this is, I think, how we can do that. So connect, like I say, in the next week, I'm still working. I'm still in my nurse admin job until the 16th. So I'm pretty much available in the evenings. I'm on Eastern Standard Time. I'm in Indiana. So I can connect with you any evening to kind of just gather that information from you. Again, just kind of really share your plans with me for the fall, where you see yourself going, and how I need to share this with the students on those campuses to help get them involved with you and us, or, Intactivism.
Cool.
So reach out. I'll send my information to you though.
Cool.
All right. Good night, you guys.
Okay, good night.